This is exciting. Welcome, everyone, to Born to Be Rich podcast. I'm your host, Judy King, and today is a very exciting day because we have our very first guest. And this guest is a very special guest of mine, Bobbi Barrington. Welcome, Bobbi.
Hi.
So Bobbi is a client of mine and has been for a couple of years. And when I put the shout out to have live coaching on one of these beautiful podcasts, she was like, yes, and is the first one throwing herself in and putting herself out there and being willing to have this live hot seat coaching, which is so fun. I love this. I love this so much. So thanks for saying yes, Bobbi.
No, I couldn't not.
I know you're always up for it.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit about what's the biggest confrontation, challenge, opportunity that you're up against right now.
Okay, so right now I am at a really challenging time in my life, and faced with so many things that are coming at me in all kinds of directions. You know, big things like court cases, financial challenges, and at the same time, I'm trying to move forward with my business, move forward towards my vision. And I have this amazing and strong and compelling vision. And so I'm trying to balance the moving forward to what I want, what's important, you know, how I serve the world, how I get my message out, with all of the stuff around the outside, you know, like, as you know, Judy, I used to be so controlling. I used to control everything because of my fears and, you know, childhood stuff and insecurities and things. And I spent my life in, you know, controlling work, you know, accountancy, which was not me, and project management and things like that. And having let go of such a lot of control and opened myself and my heart to trusting and my intuition, there's a bunch of stuff around the edges that I'm not in control of anymore, and I'm frightened that it's going to come back and bite me. And, you know, like my email box is growing and things are not getting attended, and it's really challenging for me to try and balance the moving forward with the tidying up, you know. And I feel like I'm a speedboat, you know, like heading towards my vision, but in the wake is all of these, you know, the balls I'm trying to juggle, and they're all falling on the floor. Or some of them I've got and some of them I haven't, and the ones I haven't got worry me.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Beautiful. Yeah, totally. I also wanted to say, I forgot to say, Bobbi is an inspirational speaker and a coach, and is, really has we've done a lot of work together in really cleaning up some big things at an emotional level, and getting her moving towards what's really set her soul on fire, which is where you're moving towards now, right? With your speaking and what you've been doing with that, and getting your message out there. And the massive vision that you've got is so at arm's reach. Right. And so I want to first acknowledge all of the work that you've done to get yourself to this point, because it's been extraordinary, and you've just really, put in the work. And the thing for all of us to remember is the inner work, the growth, the challenges, right? These things that we come up against that maybe are new, and maybe they're not. Maybe we've been through them before, and maybe we think, oh, I've been through that before, and why do I have to go through it again? Right? There can be that piece where we question it and think, God, like, I thought I've worked on that, or I thought I've been through that. But evolution is not linear. We can't go backwards. We're always going forwards, even when times we might feel like we are. But it's this spiral. And so sometimes there's things for us to work through and evolve through at every new level, and through the spiral of our own evolution as well. And there may be some little intricate pieces that are just not fully cleaned up yet. And so they present themselves to us in these other neatly packaged challenges, which maybe not always feel very neat. So I'm hearing what you're saying. I took a couple of notes as you were speaking just to make sure I'm kind of getting where you're at. And so what it sounds like is you're saying that in the past you used to be very controlling and kind of be all over things. Is that what you mean by be controlling? And you kind of knew what you needed to do, when you needed to do it, and you're very structured and organized with that. Is that right?
I was, and I spent such a lot of time, like I lived in spreadsheets, like
Mm,
forecasting, planning, like, and now I don't.
yeah.
Now I trust so much more and know that things will be okay, but there is a worry about the things that I've missed on the
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there's a difference between trusting the unknown and surrendering and letting life unfold for us. That's obviously been one of the big things that we've been working on, is to get you to get out of this controlling aspect. Because what happens is when we're operating from fear, and fear being the undercurrent, how we control that fear is through controlling our environment, through having things structured in a certain way that we know that it is the certain way, and that makes us feel more secure, that makes us feel safer. Actually, what we want to feel is safe, and so we're using these strategies in a way to make us feel what we want to feel. Now, those things can interfere because we're not allowing any freedom within who we're being or how we're showing up, or actually the undercurrent of all of it that's driving our behavior and driving our lives is fear. And can you
Totally.
relate to that?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've spent my life in fear.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, and a lot of times it's an undercurrent. The way that I describe it is this undercurrent, right? It's outside of our conscious awareness. When we start getting into the work and we start doing this inner work, it becomes apparent, right? And this is where you are. You've been in the work for a long time, actually. I think maybe a decade or more, but actually we've gone a lot deeper in the last couple of years, right? So as you evolve and as you grow, you start to become more aware and have this consciousness and awareness of how you've lived your life and how you've led your life. And what happens is when we lead our life a certain way, it's like that just becomes part of our ingrained way of being. And the what you've been met against is changing that way of being when it's been your way of being for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, however many years you've been that way, right? And so, and this is why change is not an overnight thing. It is a process, and does take, can take time. It can be very quick, and it can also require consistency over time. Now, you're saying what I'm hearing a little bit in the language, and what I tend to do is I hear what's going on behind the words, right, and in between the words. And so what I'm hearing a little bit is this conflict potentially between being in flow, going with the unknown, but then also there's things that I actually need to be on top of and I need to be dealing with on the day-to-day basis that actually require some structure and actually require some planning and control from a healthy way. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
That's true. But I feel that I kind of the stuff that bogs me down, this all of these things that are going on and the things that I've dropped, and the balls and everything. I feel that they take such a lot of my time, and even trying to get balance in my life. I feel like when I work towards my vision, I have to kind of force myself to spend the time doing those things, and they are the things I love. And even while I'm doing that, I want to be in the best state to do that as well. But when I have this state of anxiety, like I was saying about the car insurance, I think, oh my God, like, is it up to date? Because I'm not on top of it. I'm not on top of my email box. I've got papers all over the place, and like taking the time to organize I kind of resent it a bit because it's taking me away from what I am here to do.
Okay, got it. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of
Yeah.
things. So the first thing is what was I? Where was what was the first thing I was going to speak into? I might just go into the second thing because it's right there. So the resentment that you feel around the things that you need to do, which sometimes we could call obligations or feel like, this is not moving me forward. Why am I spending time doing this thing, checking my emails or getting on top of my emails? Like, why do I have to do that? That's not moving me forward. But the most important thing to remember is, in order to balance was the other thing. So I'm going to remind me if I forget, because the way my brain works, things go out of my mind, right? So the way that it works is the things that we're avoiding are actually interrupting our flow of bringing in what we want to bring in. And I know that you know this, but it's getting it on an embodied level, at a cellular level. And noticing the resentment that's there and being able to be like, okay, I'm present to that. I notice that is there. And what do I get to do about this? How do I get to make a different choice? And what happens is when you avoid things for far too long and they build up and then they feel like these insurmountable tasks. So if you've let your email go for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and now it feels like a huge task, what do? Keep avoiding it, right? You keep avoiding it and you avoid it even more because now it feels like it's just insurmountable, like it's this huge task that I don't have time for. And so some of the ways I'm going to coach you here is through also looking through the lens of your human design and your gene keys. And Bobbi already has an awareness of this, but this is what I love about this is it gives us this immediate access point to go, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. When you have this huge vision, when you're like, you're here to create a massive impact to millions and billions of people, right? So when you have this big vision and you start moving towards that vision, what's going to happen? Obstacles are going to get in the way. They're going to appear and be like, oh, let's see if you really want that. Boom, take this. Or there's this fear that is unresolved at the unconscious level. So now we're going to bring you this because that too is unresolved. And in order to get to where you want to go, this needs to get completed. So actually, as we moving towards, have you experienced that, like in many different areas in little ways where you set yourself a goal and then you go out there and you start doing it. And then all of a sudden something happens and it wipes you out and you're like, oh, and then what a lot of people do is they're like, oh, I'm just not meant to do that. For me, it was always around working out. I would be like, right, yes, especially as I was like getting my health back, working on my health and having these health things, I'd start, right, I'm going to start and I'm going to go work out and I'd get into a routine and I'd go and do it. And then all of a sudden, like, I'd get sick and I wouldn't be able to, commit to the plan. Does that relate?
Yeah, I'm feeling I'm being tested.
Absolutely.
I'm feeling that the universe is saying, Bobbi, do you really want it? This big vision,
yeah.
And with the money and with this, court stuff that I've got on, the universe is saying, Bobbi, are you up to it?
Totally.
So I get to choose.
Absolutely. Exactly right. That's what's happening. And it's saying there's some unresolved things here for you. And so because you haven't been dealing with that, here's a neatly packaged court case that you can deal with to actually work through those things that you've been avoiding and that you haven't been actually being responsible enough to do. And so now, here, take this.
Oh.
And now you can't avoid it. You can't run from it.
Yeah.
It's right here. And that's what we say. Everything is here for us, right? It's we unconsciously create many things in this way because at the unconscious level, the unconscious mind's job is to bring up to the surface the things that are here for us to look at and to get complete with. And it's only going to bring up what you're ready to deal with, what you're ready to look at, what you're able to handle. It's not going to bring you up stuff that you're not able to handle because your unconscious mind is here to serve you, to be of service to you, and to help you get what you want, actually, in the fastest way possible. But if there's incomplete things, and remember, it's a spiral, right? So you might be like, oh, I've been doing so much work on this and, yet there's another layer. There's more depth. There's a little intricacy and it's all entangled. There's this little piece that's still unresolved there. Let's give this to you and see if you can really move through it, through this challenge, through this opportunity, right? A challenge, an obstacle is an opportunity.
Oh, my unconscious mind has massive belief in me then.
Absolutely.
Throwing all these things at me.
Exactly. And
Yep.
yet, what the listeners aren't aware of is hearing the conversations that we have in our, in our Telegram thread, where it's like, oh, wow, Judy, like if this had have happened 3 years ago, I would have been on the floor a mess, like not able to actually move forward and carry on. And this is an example of the work that you've done that's got you to this point that enables you to keep moving forward and keep going towards the vision, even while this is really messy and feeling like a lot of tension. And this is what happens. We have this big vision, and the most successful people are the ones who can hold the tension and keep moving forward towards the vision, towards the goal, without dropping that vision, without letting that, letting these obstacles turn us away and say, oh, it's just not meant to be. Oh, this is all happening. That's shit. So that means that it's just not right for me. All that stuff. Those quite often are just excuses that take people out, and they're happy for them to take them out, because to actually go after the vision that you want takes guts, takes being bold, takes courage, so much courage. So there's that, right? Does that land for you?
Oh, very much.
What are you hearing for yourself in that?
So what I've been saying this morning is story and meaning, and the things are the things, and I can handle them, and I do have capacity to handle these things. But if I can choose to let them overwhelm me, or I can choose to like tackle them, one at a time,
Yep.
in state, in the right state, but
Yeah.
I am so proud though, with like who I have become in these last couple of years, and my ability to handle all of these things, and not be, wiped out, by the challenges. It's epic. It's really
Just repeat that,
epic.
and just repeat that and cut out and not be.
I'm so proud of me and my ability to handle all of the things and not be wiped out by them, and my resilience and strength and emotional intelligence and personal growth in such a short time. It's been absolutely phenomenal and unbelievable.
Amazing.
Who I've become.
Yeah.
And it's just a start, really.
Totally.
Yeah.
Acknowledging you. Two things I want to talk about. Number one is what I had mentioned before, the balance. So the thing with balance is balance can be a bit of an idea of something that we think that we need, or think that we need to have, or it can sometimes feel out of reach, because the way that I view it is we have all of these areas of life, and there are seasons of life where our focus is on particular areas, and in those seasons something may be out of balance because we're putting our energy and our focus towards something in particular, right? So let's say our focus is primarily on our business. Sometimes what happens is we let our health slip because we're just putting all of our energy. Now, is that healthy? No, absolutely not. And so that's where it's looking at what do I also need to do in order to support me to thrive in my business and to be able to optimally perform. My health needs to also be a part of my daily routine that I'm prioritizing. Now, it may mean that the time that we spend with our family is not as much. And maybe during that season, that's okay. And we've made an agreement and we've communicated that and we've really clear on that right now. So it's just looking at, okay, where am I letting things slip that are okay and that I'm accepting, and that I'm saying, you know what, for now, my friendships aren't my priority, and my whatever else. There's not as much, maybe my personal development or learning new things is not a priority right now because I've got a lot of learning. And so now I'm just going to focus on implementing and I'm going to focus on X, Y, Z. Right. So it's looking at that and then just really being intentional about it and declaring that to yourself and making an agreement with yourself that I'm okay with that. The thing what more so the balance that I think you're talking about is the balance between the day-to-day stuff, like checking your emails and being on top of your insurance and things like that. I mean, those things are actually an easy fix. It's like, well, I'm going to commit to actually be responsible for checking my emails, even if it's just scanning through and seeing what are the important ones today, if any, that I do actually need to be responsible enough to address. And carving out 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, whatever that looks like, 30 minutes a week, however you want to do it, and actually be responsible. Because as the CEO of your company, are you going to let email slide when emails and communication come in that way that are important areas for you to deal with and look at? Are you going to do that? If you're
Not
being
now.
a responsible, accountable, powerful CEO.
Mm.
No, like these are parts of the things that we think, oh, that's not important. Emails aren't important, but they could be if it's communication about things that are important, like the car insurance, right? Or you go in and you check when's it due, you put it in your calendar and you're like, cool, that's when it's due. I don't need to think about it now. Boom, it's done. Because quite often now what they do is they don't send letters out and they do just send emails. And I missed one at the end of last year as well. So it's like, that's where you get to really step up, raise your standards for how you're going to play this game and go, that's how I'm going to deal with that. And boom, you can get it done literally in minutes. Right?
For me with the email, there's another underlying thing that quite a lot of it contains threat and danger to me, because of other things that aren't cleaned up. So the email itself is symptomatic of other stuff.
And so we're going to see that within your chart. We're going to see that avoidance, that that 3 line has that tendency to want to do that and to escape it and to kind of run away from it from that perspective. And what I want you to really know is that about yourself. Okay. So that you use that as a strategy to cope, to create safety, is the avoidance. Now, when you know that is a thing, and you see yourself playing that out, you want to point it out. You want to be like, oh, Bobbi, I'm doing that thing where I'm avoiding. And actually right now, what do I need to do to create the safety within myself? Because the thing that you think is scary and threatening actually isn't. That's the story that you've made up. So what are the facts? The facts are there's an email from so-and-so. There's an email from so-and-so. That's the facts. When we strip away the story and the emotions that we're charging behind it, and then we create safety internally within us that I'm grounded, I'm in my body, I'm safe, I'm here, it's not going to kill me, I'm not going to die, I'm just going to open this email and it might not be what I want it to be, but I'm actually going to be okay, and I can be okay with whatever emotion arises within that. And that is a process of building the muscle on the day-to-day of holding yourself, reparenting yourself through the emotions. And I'm not going to go through the way that we do that because I don't really have the time right now, but you've got the tools for that. And so it's just more of that and more of that inner dialogue of what you would say to a 6-year-old child when they're feeling scared. What would you say to her? The little girl within that's just feeling terror. Would you tell her it's okay? I've got you. Nothing. No, it's all made up, right?
Yeah, there's totally a 6-year-old in me.
Yeah, we all have her. We all have her. Absolutely. And that scared little girl that was too scared to, truly be who she was, and decided it was safer to hide, decided it was safer to shut her voice down and be quiet because that would keep her safe and out of trouble, right? That piece still wants to play out. And so we've got to nurture her and encourage her just like we would a 6-year-old daughter, right? We need to do that for ourselves.
So I've had 60 years of this 6-year-old
Yeah. We
Nearly
all
6
have.
years. Yeah.
There is a lot of
Yeah.
CEOs running businesses that are hurt little girls and hurt little boys, 6-year-olds like they're in the playground that have zero emotional intelligence and are functioning that way in business, in life, in relationships. Like
Mm,
majority of people are operating that way,
mm,
but we're rising above that.
mm. And
You get to rise above that.
it's not something you grow out of,
No,
which is
it's
a.
just about
Yeah.
how we work with it, how we use it.
Mm,
You have the awareness.
mm,
So then it's like, well, if you're not doing the things that are supporting that little girl inside, then that's on you. And this
mm.
is the next point I want to bring around is from a human design perspective, the biggest energy that we have within our body is our conscious sun. It's the top, if you look at the chart, the top right hand corner. And for yours, it is gate 56. And so this gate on the shadow aspect, or what you might hear me say, the low expression of this gate is really being distracted by shiny objects in like that shiny object syndrome, being distracted by that. That is that from Gene Keys, the shadow is distraction, right? And so also it's overstimulation and it can also be boredom from insufficient stimulation. And so because we might be like, oh, I'm bored, I don't have anything to do right now. Oh, I need to create something to do. I need to create the drama, or I need some, I need some kind of distraction. And so that is what you may see playing out. And so when I kind of see these spirals playing out, within, which is what's happening within you right now. It's a spiral that's happening within you. It's like a great place to look really quickly is to the conscious sun shadow or the Gene Key shadow and go, okay, so, and what the energy of this is slipping into the role of victim and not taking responsibility. So it's like, oh, I'm playing that out right now. Oh, I know what that is. And so it's like, because we have this awareness that because this is 70% of your energy. This conscious sun is 70% of our energy. And so can be a very fast, quick way to go in what's the low expression of this. And is this what's playing out right now? And if it is, we can be like, oh, that's all it is. And so then I get to go, all right, so and it's also about this, like I said, it's that victim energy, but it's also about like playing out these outdated mental stories. Sound familiar?
A little bit.
Right? You even
Oh,
mentioned that you were doing it this morning in
oh,
the story, giving it meaning.
oh, yeah. I mean,
And why?
just
Because there's an emotional attachment to that. You know yourself to be that way.
yeah.
It's
Oh, I find myself getting bored with the most, I don't know, just about everything at times.
there you
Like,
go.
oh, I'm bored with that now. I can't be bothered with that now, and then I'm
Totally.
distracted by that,
Yeah.
and like even in this conversation, I have to bring my mind back to focus on what's happening now, because it wants to other shiny things to deal with.
Right. So that's what you want to consistently be aware of how am I operating in the low expression of this, and how do you shift it is by really raising the frequency, raising your standards for what you're going to tolerate for yourself and what you're not, and go, okay, so now when I'm operating in the high expression, 56 is the storyteller, right? So it's
I
like
know.
you get to tell those stories on your adventure, on the adventure of life that you've had, in a way that's funny. You can bring your
I
humor
know.
to it, right? And amusement to it. And, I always tell you the SSD, serious, significant, dramatic, right? Like we get like that. That's this shadow element of this gate 56. And so it's bringing the delight of these experiences. It's the inner knowing of when it's time to actually step outside of the comfort zone and embrace that stuff that is unknown. And I also wanted to say that when we're living in the unknown, when we're trusting and when we're moving forward, even when we don't know how, which is a big piece of your work right now, it doesn't mean that we don't control or we aren't on top of the other things. There's a big difference between that. We still are required to be the CEO of our life and take responsibility for the things that are important. And even though those things might be like, oh, that doesn't matter. That's just the insurance. That's just an email. That's just that. It's like, actually, it does matter because it's a reflection of everything.
Well, with me, of course, like in terms of the masculine bits and
Yeah.
who I am
Yeah.
as a trans woman,
Yep.
and pushing away like my masculine and by extension all of those parts of my life that was my life for so long that was so not me. But
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
now having to re-embrace those things, this has been really massive, actually, like
Yeah.
this shifting the pendulum back a bit for me.
Exactly. But in
Yeah,
order to grow and evolve, that's what needs to happen. We
yeah,
push it all the way over to the one side of the pendulum,
yeah,
and then it goes to the other side, which is what's happened for you. And now we want to come back into the center.
yeah.
And in order to evolve, actually, we need to reject. But after the rejection, we come to acceptance.
Yes.
Right. So it's like if I was to like not let my child have McDonald's, and I'm like, no, that's so bad, that's so wrong, that's like horrible food, is blah blah blah, it's not even food, whatever, and I don't let her have it, she is going to want it. She's going to want it so bad. So this is that thing, if she needs to experience it and reject it and be like, that is gross, yes, and now there's an acceptance of what I'm saying, and this happens in everything in life. So, like what you're saying, there was a rejection of the masculine. Now it's about coming into an acceptance and a harmony within these two pieces, knowing the masculine is so important to hold you and to create structure and systemization to allow you to be in flow. You cannot have one without the other. Otherwise,
Uh,
if it's too in flow and too, I'm just in the unknown and I'm just in flow, no, it just doesn't work. It does not work.
no, I have come a long way back,
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
amazing. So we've got to wrap up. I have another call to jump on that you're also going to be on inside of In Her Authority. And I'd love to know what's your biggest takeaway from this conversation and how's this going to shift things for you moving forward?
The big thing is, okay, a couple of things. One is being tested, and now that for me is a big challenge
Yeah.
because of my identity. Like, bring it on, test me. Now I've God, words are so powerful. And the words of reframing what
Yeah.
was, oh my God, all the things now into, you can handle this, Bobby. Being tested by the universe, you're being thrown all these things, and I can choose. Am I going to sort of succumb to it all, or am I going to rise above it? And like, no question to that. And the other aspect of it is responsibility. Responsibility and accountability. And in my own coaching, that awareness piece, commitment, decision, and then being responsible for yourself and your outcomes.
Yep.
And then taking action, and then ultimately trusting. I think these are just such a beautiful model of, like, personal power and success.
Yeah.
Those things. So the awareness, the decision, the choices we make, and the responsibility. So,
Amazing.
obviously I need to be responsible for me, every aspect of me, including all of these balls that are in the air. They're my balls that are in the air,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to choose. I am nobody's victim. I am strong and empowered, and having found fulfillment and freedom, it's just a joy, just the best place to be. But that doesn't mean it's not without work, constant work. I work on this all the time, my
Yeah.
mindset. Changing gender was easy compared to changing mindset, and that's done. And this is me, and this is a work in progress
Yeah.
forever. Yeah, and thank you,
Amazing.
Judy.
Thanks for being so
Amazing.
coachable and for saying yes to this. I
Oh,
appreciate you so much.
I want it. I want it. Yeah. One life. One
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Amazing, my love. Well, thank you so much for everyone tuning in. Hope you got something for yourself, and jump into our Facebook group and share away, share your experiences, share what you've taken away hearing Bobbi share. And, we always hear things from other people that are actually a reflection of our own life in some way. They may show up differently, but There's lots of powerful learnings inside of this conversation, and I can't wait to hear from you and hear what it was for you. Have a phenomenal day.